Unbelievable! Howard Berg, the world's fastest reader in the Guinness Book of Records, demonstrates his mega reading technique on national TV.
And you read this. You read this. Anybody who gets this course from yours can do what you just did.
You already have the ability. I'm just showing you how to release it.
Now, unlock your natural ability to quadruple your reading speed and remember everything you read with the amazing Mega Reading Home Study course.
I highly endorse and recommend this program. Howard is the world's fastest reader. There's nothing out there like it anywhere in the world. It'll work for anyone about 8 to 10 years and up. If you have a student in your life, you need to get it for them. If you're in business, if you read papers, if you like to read novels, you'll learn this information, you'll read it quickly, and you'll be able to recall it.
The amazing Mega Reading technology turns your eyes into a wide-angle camera so you can virtually photograph pages as fast as you can turn them. Imagine how much time you'll save when you read books, magazines, and newspapers in a fraction of the time. For business, school, or pleasure, anyone can release their super mega reading ability.
The former president of Evelyn Wood asked me to train his family. Now, this is a man who knows speed reading.
Mega reading is so powerful, it's even been endorsed by Maurice Thompson Jr., former president of Evelyn Wood.
His son quadrupled. I think he went from 2 to 860 words a minute in less than 4 hours.
Anyone can learn the amazing mega reading secrets of the world's fastest reader. There's nothing else like it. In less than 4 hours, you'll become a mega reader too.
Folks, you heard this. You can call right now, get Howard's program. It takes just a few short hours. It's easy, it's fun, anybody can do it. You'll be the greatest conversationalist. Kids get straight A's with less study time. You'll make more money in business because you'll be able to remember all the information.
Don't be left behind. Unlock your natural ability to quadruple your reading speed. Call the number on your screen and order Mega Reading. It really works. Not available in stores. Money back if you aren't astounded. Call now.
Kevin Trudeau. You may have seen his face before, as once he was an late-night infomercial god. Selling all sorts of different things. But he's mostly known for his books, which offered things like cures for diseases, as well as debt solutions they don't want you to know about. Now you might be saying, who's they? You know, they, them, those guys. In all actuality, Trudeau is probably the one you should be most concerned about, not some ridiculous conspiracy nonsense, because he is a career scammer, attaining near legendary status in his particular trade of simply ripping people off. He is, truthfully, a savant at this, finding ways to repeatedly make money from people who don't really know any better. Trudeau was adopted, and his exact birthday isn't known, but it was either 1962 or 1963, and his adoptive parents were Robert and Mary Trudeau. He attended St. Mary's High School in Lynn, Massachusetts, where he was indeed voted most likely to succeed by the class of 1981. And, in a way, that was true, but probably not in the manner that anyone expected. See, as I said, Trudeau isn't dumb. He's actually quite smart, but he applied his intelligence in an unscrupulous manner. He's very charismatic, and that combined with his intelligence and lack of moral fiber meant he spent the majority of his adult life finding new ways to take people's money. Though early on, he was pretty dumb about it, if I'm being brutally honest. He started out with a legitimate career as a used car salesman, which... I mean, honestly, isn't that like the best stereotype way of, hey, this is how I learned to scam people? I mean, I know plenty of used car salesmen aren't necessarily scammers, but there is a stereotype for that. But eventually he got bored of that, as that could be perceived as at least somewhat honest and a legitimate career. Instead, he started selling memory improvement techniques. What? This is his first foray into medical pseudoscience, selling people on alternative medicine, which is probably what he's most well known for. But during that time, he got greedy and decided that he was going to deposit $80,000 in bogus checks while impersonating a doctor. In 1991, he also pled guilty to 11 counts of credit card fraud. Not starting off that well in terms of the honesty department. But after this, he would start being clever about his scams. He was released from prison in 1993 and immediately joined a multi-level marketing firm known as Nutrition for Life. Now, a multi-level marketing firm, sometimes called an MLM, is a corporate structure that basically makes revenue from their non-salaried workforce. The workforce pays the company to get the products, and they sell the products for a profit themselves. But the end result here is usually that the bottom-tier employees don't make hardly anything, and they keep giving their money to the company that doesn't actually have to do any of the selling. If that sounds like a pyramid scheme, that's because it basically is. A pyramid scheme stays afloat as long as they keep recruiting new members with the promises of success. They pay the company their entry fee as well as fees for seminars and things like that in order to teach them how to sell and make their own money. But the truth is that the vast majority of these individuals never make anything, and the company gets all of it. Nutrition for Life, truthfully, is kind of its own story. It's pretty long. But in terms of what Trudeau did, he was basically one of their suppliers. He worked with them to sell his pseudoscience crap. And when Nutrition for Life was basically outed as being a pyramid scheme, he bailed and went down his own road, marketing his all-natural cures on late-night television infomercials. He had a pretty wide range of products on offer. Things like hearing aids, dietary supplements, baldness remedies, addiction treatments, those memory improvement courses, and even real estate investment strategies. The dietary supplements are where it gets interesting because he also pushed something called coral calcium. Now, coral calcium is a real thing. It's a salt of calcium, derived from fossilized coral reefs, and it has been promoted as an alternative treatment for a number of different health conditions, up to and including cancer. But, as you might expect, it doesn't do basically anything. There's no evidence that coral calcium really affects you in any real way. It doesn't actually treat basically anything. It's a placebo at best. The vast majority of his broadcasts had a whole bunch of unsubstantiated claims just like this one, and he was fined in 1998. Those fines were pushed forward by the FTC. It involved commercials that included things like a breakthrough that in 60 seconds can eliminate addictions, which was discovered by Dr. Callahan. Who's that? We don't know, but he's a doctor, definitely. And he found it when he was studying quantum physics! It sounds ridiculous, but people were falling for this. And even after the fine, $500,000, mind you, Trudeau trucked forward. It wasn't until June of 2003 the FTC filed another complaint against Trudeau, as well as some of his companies, in this instance leaning on that coral calcium nonsense. Initially, he entered into a stipulated preliminary injunction that prohibited him from continuing to make those claims about coral calcium, but he violated it, and he was held in contempt of court. In 2004, he agreed to pay $2 million to settle the charges, and he agreed to a lifetime ban on promoting products using infomercials. But they left him an out. While they did ban him from selling products via infomercials, they didn't ban him from promoting books, and the books somewhat fell under free speech. They couldn't necessarily ban him from writing these books, nor did they choose to ban him from promoting them. So in 2004, he began down his path of books. The first one he published was a medical guide, of course, titled Natural Cures They Don't Want You to Know About, which hit the shelves in 2005. His infomercial method for promoting it was actually genius, because the infomercial was disguised. It didn't appear to be an infomercial at first. It appeared to be a late-night talk show, where Trudeau was giving a candid interview about his book and how the FTC and the FDA, the government, they were trying to silence him. He actually used the fact that he was found guilty of fraud as a way to make it seem like, no. See, I'm trying to tell the truth. They're the ones who are lying. This is all a conspiracy. And that sort of thing can appeal to a certain group of people, especially when we're talking about the medical field, where there are desperate individuals looking for some kind of hope, some kind of way to cure their ailments that medical science can't necessarily fix overnight. Trudeau promised natural cures to certain things, hidden by the powers that be because that might affect their profit margins. Those dastardly evil Illuminati! And the heck of it is, it worked. That book became a bestseller, selling 5 million copies. But when people actually read it, they found that actually there were no natural cures in the book at all. Now seriously, it really didn't have hardly anything that was helpful, and Trudeau said he couldn't include them because of threats by the FTC. So he wrote a book on natural cures, sold it, didn't have any natural cures, and then he said he couldn't include those because of the FTC. Okay, so see, this is what we call false advertising, though. You're not actually selling anything. It's a book of nothing. Thank you for that. Now, 2 years after this debacle, he would get a bit bolder. He published a second medical book titled More Natural Cures Revealed, Previously Censored Brand Name Products That Cure Disease. In this particular book, the claim was made that animals in the wild rarely develop degenerative conditions like cancer or Alzheimer's, which is... No, they just don't live very long with those conditions, so it's rarely seen, but they happen. He also says that a lot of diseases aren't caused by viruses or bacteria at all, but rather an imbalance in vital energy. This vital energy claim relates to something called vitalism. It's a belief that starts from the premise that living organisms are fundamentally different from non-living entities because they contain some non-physical element and or are governed by different principles than are inanimate things. It's a lot of pseudoscience, and no. He followed this up with the weight loss cure they don't want you to know about. This time, he did describe a weight loss plan that was proposed by a British endocrinologist, A.T.W. Simeons, back in the 1950s. This particular plan involved the injection of human chorionic gonadotropin, or HCG. It was a hormone for the maternal recognition of pregnancy. Thing was, over time it was found that the HCG diet really didn't actually help. In 1976, the FTC had indeed ordered clinics and promoters of that diet to inform their patients that there had been no substantial evidence that the HCG offered any benefit that was better than simply a restricted calorie diet, otherwise known as just a regular diet. Just eat a salad. You don't have to inject yourself with pregnancy hormones. Now, this time Trudeau got himself into trouble. The FTC was still after him, and they claimed that by bringing up HCG, those misrepresentations violated the 2004 consent order. He didn't go to prison just yet, though. He still had time to write debt cures they don't want you to know about. But this particular book is less controversial for the most part, because the vast majority of the information in this particular book isn't anything that's hidden. It's not that they don't want you to know about them. To be honest, most of the advice is legitimate and readily available in personal finance columns you can find for free online. The only thing in there that was pretty radical was that Trudeau points out that if his readers disagree with items in their credit reports, they could dispute them as identity theft. This particular technique was the magic cure, referenced in the title of the book, but here's the thing about that. If you were to, say, knowingly dispute something as identity theft in your credit report, even though it's something you bought or a loan you got, like it's not identity theft, and you know that's fraud. I'm not a legal expert, but I'm fairly confident that there's something criminal about doing that, you know? So I don't recommend that particular piece of advice, but, you know, it's Trudeau. He doesn't have any scruples about breaking the law. In 2009, he published another book, which was probably a lot weirder than all the rest, though. This time it was titled Your Wish is Your Command. The book promotes something called the Law of Attraction. It's a New Thought spiritual belief that basically says that positive or negative thoughts bring positive or negative experiences into a person's life. Now, again, it's a spiritual belief. It's not backed by anything scientific. All it basically says is that if you think good things will happen. And if you think bad things will happen. positive attitude. Woo, yeah, it's great. That doesn't always really work in the realest of senses. I mean, having a positive attitude is a good thing, probably, but I wouldn't say it magically causes things to happen that are good. Bad things happen to good people all the time. This is life. That's just the way it is. But of course he promotes all this nonsense, and he makes some false claims about himself. He says he flunked out of high school, which no, he did not, and then claims that he was taken in by a mysterious, secretive group known as the Brotherhood. And they taught him the secrets that he is now giving to the reader through this book. What? And in the middle of his book writing, he took the time to start, well, admittedly at face value, kind of a legitimate business. The International Pool Tour, or IPT. The International Pool Tour was basically intended to be a nationally syndicated sports championship featuring billiards. He wanted to transform billiards into a major league sport. And while that might sound silly to some of you, keep in mind that golf is a major league sport and is very successful. It makes a ton of money. And the IPT was modeled off of the PGA Tour. It does make some sense, purely because the PGA has been successful. Both sports, while somewhat different, do involve a much slower game that has precision and planning, not action-packed like soccer or football or basketball. But people do watch golf, so the notion of doing that with billiards isn't necessarily outside the realm of possibilities, but naturally it was horrifically mismanaged, and Trudeau was accused of basically pocketing a whole bunch of the investor money and not actually caring about making the thing a successful business. Which is hilarious because this probably could have worked, and he probably could have, in the long run, made a ton of money off of a very legitimate business model, completely turning his life around, but he just couldn't resist the call of the scam. 2007, he was found in contempt of that 2004 court order due to patently false claims in his weight loss book. And though he tried to appeal it, that failed. And then he tried to appeal the fine, and that failed. And he got a whole bunch of other contempt citations over the years. But in a nutshell, Trudeau wouldn't listen to the court. He kept doing whatever he wanted, wouldn't pay the fines, kept filing appeals, stalling, delaying. And in March of 2014, he was finally sentenced to 10 years in prison. Mind you, this was only for the contempt, and that's a pretty long time for a contempt of court conviction. But the judge, Renaud Guzman, was allegedly visibly irritated with Trudeau by this point, and honestly, I don't blame him. Trudeau had spent the whole time lying and trying to get out of everything, and the judge clearly had had enough of him, figuring that maybe a lengthy prison sentence might actually get him to stop being an idiot for 1 minute, but, no, he doesn't do that. Oh yeah, he also wrote another book called Free Money they don't want you to know about. He doesn't have any free money. Sorry to disappoint you. Just thought I should mention that. He was found in contempt because of the claims in that book, too. But the thing about Trudeau is that, as I said, he's very charismatic. Even when he was found guilty and thrown in prison, he had a lot of fans and followers that were dedicated to him, believing that he'd been right the whole time. They actually fell for all his lies and all his ridiculous claims, and continued to take donations for his defense fund, even going as far as to compare his imprisonment with people like Nelson Mandela, which... No, one of these things is not like the other. One of these things just doesn't belong. I don't think that's a fair comparison in any way. He was eventually released, though. He left federal custody in 2022 after 8 years in the slammer, but he still owed a $37.6 million fine. The US government tried to seize cash and other things that Trudeau might have hidden, but they struggled to find much. And Trudeau was held in contempt of court again when he failed to appear. Dude just cannot stop. And as far as I can tell, he's currently out. He's not in prison at the moment. Whether or not he's paid that fine is anyone's guess. But, he's on YouTube? Yeah! His last upload as of the making of this video was about 3 weeks ago. It honestly does make sense for him given his particular modus operandi, because the infomercials, as successful as they were, cost him money to syndicate. But YouTube doesn't cost anything, and there are billions of people watching. It's effectively a free way to get his crap out there. But if this video wasn't enough for you, let me just reiterate, don't buy anything from Kevin Trudeau. He is a repeated, proven, consistent con man. The dude has spent his entire adult life finding new ways to rip people off. He offers things like cancer treatments, all-natural cures, and appeals to the demographic that simply doesn't trust the government or the machine, the man's machine. And whether or not you think that the powers that be are flawed or you trust them or whatever it is, let me just say this, that's irrelevant. Trudeau is also proven to be a con as well. He's taking advantage of you. Don't give him any money for anything, okay?
The knowledge you will learn at my seminar will make you financially independent for the rest of your life.
One of my recent transactions, I walked away with a check for $15,010.50. I took the Tom Vu Profit Seminar. It has worked for me. It has made me financially secure. You can do it too.
You don't have to ask your boss for a raise anymore. You can give yourself the best raise of your life. Come to my seminar.
Using the Tom Vu techniques, I bought this house, made $33,000. If I can apply the Tom Vu techniques and make $33,000 on this house, you can do it too.
The money-making strategy taught at my seminar is a solution for those of you who work hard but are underpaid.
Using the Tom Vu technique, one of the homes I recently bought made me $12,000.
You don't need to be a genius to learn how to make a lot of money with my system. A lot of my students who are average people make a lot of money. Why not you?
This is the house we just bought. It appraised for $98,000 and we were able to get it for $55,000. What this has done has given me confidence in myself that I know I have the ability to be able to do this. And he has confidence in me too.
At first, I didn't feel that deals like this were possible, but we have the house and we have our $30,000 profit, and I certainly believe now.
Do you see yourself a millionaire someday? Have some guts. Make a decision. Come to my seminar.
Tom Vu, sometimes called Tommy Vu, or in original Vietnamese, Tuan An Vu, is a face and voice, frankly, that if you're old enough, you may remember him. In the 1980s and early 90s, he ran a series of infomercials advertising his get-rich techniques. See, Tommy here is from Vietnam, and he immigrated to the United States in 1975. By the 80s, he had seen some success in the real estate business, and he decided that he was going to host a whole bunch of seminars in order to share his skills, his technique for how to make just so much money, just millions of dollars, all this money just sitting there, guys, and all of you could make it, definitely for realsies, absolutely. He handled his particular infomercials in an interesting way. In his case, he would sit there, talk with his thick accent, yet personable and friendly personality, while surrounded by, frankly, luxury. He would show off fountains, nice cars, and of course, many women. Just so many attractive women. As one does, and promote his seminars. He offered a free 90-minute seminars, but you could also pay for his week-long seminars, where even more secrets would be revealed for the low price of $16,000 a person. Oh, is that all? And if this particular style of scam, as well as the seminar thing, sounds really familiar to you, well...
Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here. It's fun to drive up here in the Hollywood Hills.
Yeah. Even in the modern day, you still see this sort of thing on occasion, especially on the internet. Some dude walking around his rich property with all his fancy stuff, showing it off and saying, "Hey man, I'm not gonna promise you can make money, but you know, if you listen to me, come to my talk. It's free, I promise, for realsies. I'll show you how you could be just like me." Tom Vu did it before it was cool, I guess you could say. But real talk, all these guys are scammers. And if you give it any amount of thought, well, it makes sense. Simply put, there's just no way that everyone can become rich within the same market. It's impossible. In Vu's case, it was real estate. There physically is not enough property for every single person who went to these seminars to actually profit from and become filthy rich. Vu was taking in all the money from the seminars, and according to his staff, he would often use that money to fund his own real estate business. And the thing was, Vu didn't practice what he preached. His advice hinged on the idea of no money down real estate. The idea was to find deals where you could finance 100% of a property's purchase price without putting any money down. So effectively, you could do it even if you were flat broke. Get a hold of property for no money down, and then sell it off at a profit. It makes sense, but only if you don't think about it at all. The no money down real estate idea, it can work, but it's not perfect. For one thing, assuming you find one of these deals at all, you'll likely be paying a lot more interest on the loan. Granted, the technique is to sell it off immediately, so you would kind of dodge that in this instance. But by putting no money down, you also wouldn't be able to afford really large properties that would require actual money down because they're, by their nature, worth more. You can only buy cheap stuff, and the property would have less equity overall. But the biggest issue is that the whole no money down idea just isn't feasible for most situations. Vu's technique focused on finding people who were frankly desperate to be rid of their properties due to economic hardship. So basically he was literally advising people to take advantage of the desperate. But it wasn't just desperate people they were looking for, it would be idiots. Even a person in a particularly desperate situation isn't going to sell their house for less than they know it's worth. If they are in a position where selling off their house is their only option, they're gonna at least get what it's appraised for. If you're lowballing them, not even putting any money down, that's not happening. So you'd either have to have a max charisma stat, and most people don't have that, or you'd have to be dealing with a unique kind of imbecile. And those, despite what Twitter may suggest, are few and far between. The point is, his advice simply didn't work, and he often paid straight up cash for properties that he got a hold of, putting, well, all the money down. Much of the money he used for his own real estate business came from the seminars, of course. And there's nothing illegal about that, to be fair. He is allowed to use the money that people pay him for the seminars for whatever he wants. But by the early 90s, people started getting fed up with Vu. He'd held his seminars for several years at that point, and plenty of people had heard his advice and attempted to put it into practice. And the vast majority, about 99.9%, found that it simply didn't work at all. Even people that still stood by Vu admitted that you had to work really, really, really hard to actually make his advertised technique work. It was not easy money. It was hard work. You had to try, which was Vu's major defense. Even in his ads, he said, "Do you want to be a loser, or do you want to be filthy rich?" The idea being that if you didn't want to work for it, you didn't deserve it. And some of you might say, well, isn't that true? Yeah, you can have that opinion, but you can't have that opinion while at the same time advertising a technique in real estate to people, charging them 5 figures a ticket to actually be there for it, only for the advice to really not be good at all. Vu also had people in the seminar sign multiple different contracts and made several promises of allowing them to work with him on real estate deals. And by that, he meant that he would generally take the deals that were really good, that he knew were good, and let the student take the crappy deals. So, not really a good look there. And a lot of the contracts were written very cleverly. See, in the technical sense, Vu offered refunds for people who were unsatisfied with the seminars. And by that, I mean, in order to get a refund, you had to prove that you put his techniques into practice by keeping meticulous notes for months and trying in vain for all that time every single day to make these real estate deals. And if you could not show this, you wouldn't be given a refund because as far as he was concerned, and by that I mean as far as the contract was concerned, you hadn't actually tried. By his own admission, over the course of his seminar's existence, he'd only ever issued less than 10 total refunds. and he became a millionaire off this. He was sued by former students and investigated by government officials in Florida for alleged violations of securities laws, fraud, and false advertising, but partially due to the contracts, he was never formally charged. The government never was able to pin anything on him. The thing about Vu, compared to a lot of other scammers, is he really did work hard at what he did. Scamming people, but you know. But a lot of other real estate scammers had gotten in trouble. Vu didn't make their same mistakes. He covered himself quite well, to the point that no technical crime could ever be pinned on him, because he did do everything he said he was going to do in the very technical sense. It wasn't nearly as good as people were led to believe, but he did do those things. And because he did the things he said he was going to do, there just wasn't a crime, even though the authorities desperately, so badly wished to just throw the book at him. Legally, they couldn't. So Vu walked. He carried on his seminars until at least 1992, although the accusations and the investigation, while he was never formally charged, were public knowledge, and it wasn't a good look. People stopped trusting him after that, so he quit. He retired from real estate, took his money, and relaxed for a few years before, eventually, becoming a professional poker player. Really, it's a trend that continues until today. At the age of 66, he continues to take part in casino poker tournaments. He's won nearly $2 million as of 2017 doing this. He's actually really good at poker. A career scammer really good at poker? I, for one, am utterly shocked by this startling revelation. And his ridiculous commercials also went down in history, and they've been parodied numerous times by a whole bunch of different shows. And you might be saying, how could he have ever gotten away with it for this long? Why was he never charged? Well, like I said, they couldn't pin anything on him at the time, and Vu was smart enough to quit while he was ahead. Just like in poker, he knew when to fold. The second he was under investigation and got through it, he didn't attempt to double down on his scamming ways. He pulled out, unlike Trudeau, who couldn't stop scamming to save his life. Vu did his scam, got away with it, and said, okay, that's good, I think we're done here, which was the smartest thing he could have done. And in terms of opinions on him, well, they vary. I'll let you guys discuss that down in the comments.
Video is the most powerful form of media on the face of the planet. In fact, television has proven this year after year, decade after decade. If you're not using video to promote your product or your service, you're missing out. On the internet, the way the internet is today, with high speed, you can create a video presentation and you can show that to millions and millions of people selling your product or your service. If you would like our company to produce an amazing 1-minute television commercial or a half-hour television show, an infomercial, to promote your product or your service, we can do that. And if you're somebody and you would like just an amazing video presentation for your website, you have got to pick up the phone, give us a call right now, or fill out the form, and we'll call you right back and see what we can't do for you.
Don Lapre. If you grew up in the 90s, you probably saw one or two of his infomercials over the years, as he was one of those guys again. Lapre handled his infomercials in a way that's not totally dissimilar from people like Trudeau, offering products that will change your life, make you money, or cure diseases. And of course, all of his products being basically total scams. Let's be real about this. You know where this is going. But Lapre, of course, had to get creative with his own pitch, as it wasn't exactly the same as others. He managed to distinguish himself by offering things that, at face value, did sound legitimate, but when you really thought about it, you realized, wait, no, that doesn't, huh? And you've already bought his package, which cost hundreds of dollars, and gave you advice that you could never hope to implement. But he got the money. And that was the goal here. Getting that cheddar. For himself, but not for you. As a general rule, remember, Especially in the modern internet when we have guys pitching fast money schemes all over the place. If someone's trying to help you make money, probably is more they're trying to make themselves money, is usually how it goes with that.
Here in my garage, just bought this new Lamborghini here.
Don Lapre was born May 19th, 1964, in Providence, Rhode Island, though he and his family would not live there very long. When he was a child, they moved to Phoenix, Arizona, which is where he mostly grew up. He would meet his wife, Sally Redondo, and marry her in 1988. But Don was a high school dropout. He really didn't have a whole lot of career prospects in terms of legitimate business. In any event, his first outing was actually a credit repair business, which he called Unknown Concepts. He worked at it with his wife for a few years, but in '92, things started to go a bit off the rails, because that's when he broke out into infomercials. Don had a very charismatic and positive, uplifting way about him. He was the kind of pitchman that could make anything sound awesome, because he was high energy, cheerful, and direct. He was your classic salesman, and he probably could have had a lucrative, legitimate career doing that, selling good products, but no, of course not. That would be silly. Instead, he started selling things that were, well, honestly, at first, not outright scams. One of his earlier products was a 36-page booklet that explained how to recover a Federal Housing Administration insurance refund after paying off a home mortgage. Now, in fairness, that refund totally existed, but it only applied in that particular situation, and you probably didn't need a 36-page booklet to actually do that. But it did tell you how to do it, so he wasn't in any trouble for selling it, even if he woefully overcharged, and you could have gotten the advice elsewhere. But hey, it's still something that actually was useful to a certain group of people. But as a result, he's not super well known for that. What he is well known for are two things, but the main one being his tiny classified ads. Don't you understand? There are thousands of newspapers all over America, all of which offer space for tiny, teeny, itsy, bitsy, baby classified ads. And what you do is you spend a little bit of money on thousands of classified ads all over America, advertising your business to sell a product. But, what if you didn't have a product to sell? Oh, don't be silly. Lapre's here to help you. He's gonna connect you with a whole bunch of products you could sell, basically making your company a brokerage. You're selling other people's stuff at a slight profit so you make money, and you sell them direct from the manufacturer. Technically speaking, that is possible to do, but the effectiveness of tiny classified ads is, of course, debatable, and if everyone started doing it, well, then space is gonna fill up, and there won't be room in the paper for all these ads. And, well, thinking about it, you can see how definitely not everybody could possibly make money with this particular scheme. But according to Lapre, he was able to make $50,000 a week from his tiny one-bedroom apartment, which, that might have been true, but he was probably making the money off of his advice packages, not actually doing the tiny classified ads thing. He wasn't using them. He was doing a TV infomercial. But true to Don's form, the commercial was relatively convincing, with interviews with people who had allegedly done this and made thousands of dollars a day on it. And he even roped in Cindy Margolis to talk about the product with him. Who's that? Well, she appeared in a handful of movies and mostly a lot of infomercials, and her claim to fame was looking like this. She was, according to Yahoo, the most searched and downloaded woman for about 4 years in the late 90s, which, I could believe that. Regardless, though, her presence gave Don that much more credibility, because even if you, in your intellectual mind, didn't necessarily trust this tiny man with his scheme for you to offer tiny classified ads, Cindy Margolis is here, and Cindy Margolis can get any man to do anything for her. It worked. Don would make millions off of this scheme, and he was chock full of ideas. He didn't just stick to the tiny classified ads because he knew that would eventually catch up with him, suggesting instead of tiny classified ads to offer 900 phone lines. Not 800 phone lines, 900. Now what the heck is a 900 line? Well, it depends where you are, honestly. Different countries have different rules for this, but in North America, the area code 900 is a number reserved for premium rate telephone numbers. A call to a 900 number can result in high per minute or per call charges. So basically, it was a way to make money off of people calling you to buy stuff, because you'd be charging them extra for the call in general. Technically valid? Yeah. Also, no. But Don, again, had a way of making all of this sound completely legitimate. He was very convincing. He was a good salesman, and he really could have been legitimate and probably been pretty well off. But he would eventually fly too close to the sun. While you may argue that a lot of this stuff are things that technically could work, and therefore you get around the accusation of being an outright scam because you can, in theory, make the advice work, a la Tommy Vu, eventually Don would dabble into the outright falsehoods, things that were legitimate scams. Because into the late 90s and into the early 2000s, he would take a page out of Trudeau's book and start broadcasting infomercials for the greatest vitamin in the world. Now seriously, that's what he called it. And he made ridiculous claims about the product, claiming it was intended to be a drug for diseases like diabetes, stroke, heart disease, insomnia, cancer, and arthritis. All of this is complete and total hogwash. Despite the overzealous name, the greatest vitamin in the world would never have ever treated basically any of that, and it was at best a placebo. But either way, in 2005, the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, gave Don a stern warning about claiming his vitamins could do literally any of what he said. Don didn't take them seriously at first, and in 2006 they again warned him about saying this because they were gonna drop the hammer. And eventually, Lapre did fall under the hammer. Much like Trudeau, he just couldn't stop scamming, and on June 8th, 2011, he was indicted by a federal grand jury in Phoenix, Arizona, involving accusations regarding his news scheme. This time, he was utilizing the internet, and he planned on selling a bunch of worthless internet businesses to a whole bunch of people. That was basically the scheme. Hey, buy this business, you'll make money. Oh, the business isn't making any money? Yeah, you just bought nothing. Top tier. It was just another scam, but a much more blatant one. Federal prosecutors accused him of taking advantage of over 220,000 people, amounting to $52 million in ill-gotten gains. He was charged with 41 counts of conspiracy, mail fraud, wire fraud, promotional money laundering, and transactional money laundering. He was due to appear in court regarding all of this on June 22, 2011, but he failed to appear, so the federal judge issued a bench warrant for his arrest. He was caught just 5 days later on June 27th at a Lifetime Fitness Center, where he had apparently been living for at least 2 days. He had attempted to take his own life prior to his arrest, and apparently they didn't watch him well enough once he actually was arrested, because Lapre was found dead on October 2nd, 2011, while in jail awaiting trial, which had been set to begin on October 4th, 2011. He was 47 years old. Reactions to his death were mixed. Some said he deserved it since, well, he was a career scammer, but this kind of death is always something that's treated with a bit of a light hand. Even if the person involved was kind of scummy, it's still kind of sad, because Don didn't have to be this way. He was a really good pitchman, and if he had applied that talent to legitimate businesses, to legitimate products, he probably would be more fondly remembered. But instead, he focused all his energy into scams, or at the very least, questionable business models. Things that he knew well and good not everyone would be able to take advantage of, that not everyone would be able to get money on, but presenting it in a manner that implied that they could. And at the end of the day, the only one who was guaranteed to make money from it was Don. He was, through and through, a scam artist. But at the same time, I don't think he deserved to die for it, you know? But hey, what do you think? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe if you made it this far in the video.